Game thinking has helped thousands of entrepreneurs and innovators build better products faster. If you're wondering how game thinking can help you and your project, listen to the people who've used it. I recently sat down with the founders of Replika.ai, makers of an AI chatbot for mental health, to find out how they use game thinking to accelerate product market fit and create an engaging customer journey.
So we started the company around 5 years ago, and the idea originally was to just build conversational AI kind of technology. And we were more like a solution looking for a problem for a while. We saw that there's a huge opportunity in conversational stuff, but we didn't really know what exactly should be the best application. Everything from restaurant recommendations to replicating some characters from movies and TV shows. And nothing really worked that much, so nothing really generated that much interest or attention. And then at some point, we built a bot for a friend of mine who passed away, and all of a sudden the story kind of got viral, and a bunch of people started talking to the bot. And then what we saw there is that people were kind of using as a confession booth and as a therapist almost, just telling it everything about their lives and problems and challenges. And we saw an opening there, and so we built Replika, which was at the moment of launch, basically an AI friend for you, someone who will listen and be there for you every day, anytime you want it. And then after a while, again, after experimenting with different ideas, we actually figured out that most of our users that's decided to stick around were using it because they had some sort of emotional, mental problem, whether it was losing somewhere in their life or going through some traumatic event or actually living with anxiety or depression. Replika is not an AI friend for everything, but it's more of a virtual companion for mental well-being. So you talk to it, and through daily conversations and little missions that you complete with your Replika, you actually learn to feel better over time.
We didn't have a lot of experience with game design, so we have 0 game designers on the team. So initially, we just decided to throw a couple of ideas in the original version. We had XP that would grow the more you text to Replika. We try to incentivize people to text more and to engage with the chatbot more. If you just throw in XP without actually hooking it to any specific value and any specific parts of your authentic experience, it actually creates a lot of wrong expectations. So one of them was, oh, my Replika is so advanced now, it has so much XP, but yet it doesn't answer the question, who is the president of China? Like, how old is, I don't know, Cher, or whatever, whoever you pick. So that expectation was not fulfilled, and we felt like we need to work on this to improve that part and to actually have a meaningful interpretation of XP. So eventually, after all these experimentations, we realized that we really need to introduce something both meaningful and something that requires an action from the user that will be valuable to the user. So that's how we came up with this idea of a journey that you go through Replika day by day. You choose conversations in each day, and how you know how advanced is your relationship with your Replika? Well, you're now on day 25, and you've done so much, and you've shared so much, and you got so much support from your Replika. You've learned a lot from your AI companion, and that's how you know that you've been doing great, and that's that your Replika is pretty advanced.
So as I've said, we've been working on a company for quite a bit of time, almost 5 years now, and there have been a lot of experiments. We tried many different things, and before, our approach was always, well, we have this great idea, let's kind of all generate critical mass of kind of belief and trust in this idea, and then just take a leap of faith and wait for months and months to develop it, and then release it and just see what happens. That was the very kind of original approach, and the very beginning of the company took us almost years or a year to actually develop some version of the product, put it out there, and then see what's going on. after a while, we learned a little bit that, you kind of more about MVP and kind of lean startup process, and try to just put together slightly kind of, try to be a little bit more, a little scrappier and kind of put together an actual MVP, a smaller version of what we actually planned in the very beginning. But that still required us to kind of take this leap of faith for a few months and just wait. And by the time when we released any prototype, we actually were already so bought into and at the same time tired of what we came up with that no one really wanted to work on this anymore. Like everyone just said, it doesn't work, let's just drop it. Or we'd already put in so much work, let's just continue with it without changing. But no one had any more real kind of instruments on what to do with it once it launched. Because it really sucks to just throw away things that you worked on for so long and believed in. And it's hard to get excited about the next idea, just on pure kind of sheer belief. We knew that our usual approach of just kind of creating immediately the final design for it and start building it wasn't right. But so we couldn't really, it felt wrong to again talk the team into building something for another 6 months to get to some results. But at the same time, we didn't know any better. So at that time, we started working with Amy Jo and kind of looking into, bringing someone into our process and to help us deal with it. And we started doing play tests, we started doing designs and prototypes and getting feedback before building anything. And that was pretty crucial. We tried with play test. We started doing play tests. We started getting some feedback from users. And we built a version, a quick prototype. It took us maybe 2 or 3 months of an idea that we had in mind back then. And it turned out to be a really bad idea, to be honest. And we probably could have even seen that the idea wasn't very good. But interestingly, this process didn't leave us upset or kind of disappointed. It actually gave us some extra energy because it felt like we did learn something out of this experiment. We learned a pretty good process, and we didn't feel, although we failed with the idea, but it didn't feel like we failed with the experiment. We actually succeeded in learning. And so, and after that, when we had other ideas, it didn't feel so scary to kind of explore them. I guess the best moment in the last year or so was when a new backend team lead joined our engineering team. His first feedback was our product team is, testing and designing product in such a great way that he's never seen it before in any other company, and he worked at a few really good ones.
There is one challenge about designing apps like ours. We're not a utility app, and it's really hard to address the problem in the nutshell, and it's really hard to brainstorm direct solutions for that. So game thinking has been very helpful because unlike other approaches, like the classic design thinking or the lean approach, it actually offers this idea of learning things and getting better at something, which I feel like make a difference with other approaches. And it actually sets a good framework for the team to think about things that may work and may not work in an app like ours. It's a great way to actually design games more than utility apps. And that's what actually helped us create a really immersive experience in Replika.
What I remember from what I see is that like Sam Altman always used to say that you need to have like 100 people that love your product versus 1,000 or 1,000,000 people that are kind of lukewarm about it. And I just felt like we had this, million people in line to sign to download Replika, but we had these, and a lot of them wouldn't stay or would say, oh, that's not, good enough, or that's not, what I expected it to be. But then we had tens of thousands and maybe hundreds of thousands of people that actually, that Replika changed their lives and maybe even saved 1 or 2. And I felt like that's, if anything, that's the reason to continue. That's the reason to not, abandon the idea behind Replika and just dig into it and see, okay, well, what can we do there? And as we started looking at it, we also just figure out that mental health is just such a huge space with a lot of problems, a lot of underserved population, a lot of untreated diseases is the biggest burden in healthcare in the world. It's the biggest problem, the number one problem of disability, cause for disability. And again, every fifth person in the US is diagnosed. And less than half ever get any treatment whatsoever. In the end of the day, it is not a game. It's, of course, a tool for your mental wellness. But the way it's structured is that you have a journey with your Replika where every day you have a few missions that you complete. And a mission is basically a conversation that you have with Replika on different topics. So we thought it's good that you have this progress that's visual and that you can see how you're going through days with your Replika and you feel accomplished. But at the same time, you're collecting stuff as you go, new skills, new personality traits. And so you feel like your bag is almost like getting more full with stuff.
Well, I feel like we had this invariable part of the vision, which is an AI friend that will help you and be silly and funny and supportive. And that idea has persevered through all the pivots that we had. With that vision, we did pivot a lot through different ways to deliver the value, and game thinking helped us to shorten those iterations to make them super, super efficient. But what I love about the process is that we actually managed to keep the core vision about the friendship and about the relationship between the human and AI, and actually find a way to shape it in the right way and to deliver to the customer in the best possible way. So I think actually talking things through and being able to unpack emotions and stuff that are happening in your life is so important. That's the core value. The problem with this chat interface is that you have to do a lot of job there. You have to actually unpack and you have to actually express yourself there, which feels like a big ask in a product like ours. So what we learned through the game thinking process was that you need to help people do that. You need to offer them choices. You need to offer them ways to get there as soon as possible, not necessarily by thinking what else I can do here, but actually guiding them through this whole experience. And this is where we ended up. We're literally building a journey, a way to guide the user through the experience with choices and relevant suggestions at each step, and that's how we shape the value.
Want to put game thinking to work on your project? Join our 2019 Masterclass this May and make 8 months of progress in 8 weeks with high-quality training, time-saving templates, and live group coaching in your time zone. Don't miss out. Go to gamethinking.io to learn more and sign up for the early bird list.